welcome back guys, Tia and Andy here, and today we are taking you around the world with us. We're gonna be making yet another one of our favorite recipes. No, we're not making pho. Instead, we'll be taking you to Puerto Rico. Now, when we went to Puerto Rico, it was one of our favorite vacations that we have ever taken, and it was there that we fell in love with Puerto Rican rice and beans. So that's what we're cooking today. Let's do it. Let's kick it off with all of the ingredients we're gonna need. Now, this is gonna be split into 3 parts. The very first one is the beans. To start, you're gonna need 1 pound of these beans, the pinto beans. Ideally, they would be dry and we would be soaking them overnight. However, with the current situation, we could only find canned, and that's okay. We're gonna make this work. You're also going to need some broth or water for the beans, and you'll also need 2 to 3 bay leaves. Part 2 of our recipe is for the sofrito, which is the sauce that we're gonna use in this Puerto Rican rice and beans. You're going to need olive oil, which we have plenty in our household. You're going to need yellow onion and green pepper. Those are both going in there. You'll also need some garlic and no salt added tomato sauce. And you're gonna want a nice serving of cilantro as well. We're gonna be mixing that in with some spices. We'll go over the spices in one moment. But that brings us to part number 3 of the ingredients, which is everything that we need for the rice. Well, to start, you're gonna need a good serving of rice and some water to cook it in. Now from there, we've got to assemble our spices. You've got 2 options with your spices. You can pre-buy the spice packs. If you'd like, we'll put links below into what spice packs you need to be looking for. Or if you're like us, you can mix your own spice packs with all the spices that you have at home. So that's what we're doing today, and I'm gonna walk through all of the spices we'll need. So we're gonna use some chili powder, some salt, and some black pepper here. We've got paprika that's going in there, cumin that will also go in there. We've got some oregano, turmeric. We've got bouillon cubes or chicken broth. We're gonna be using this to actually flavor the rice. So this is optional, you don't have to have this, but we like to put it in there. We've got ground cumin seeds, the bay leaves that we talked about for the beans, and lastly we have a good serving of vampire repellent, aka garlic powder, and that's gonna give us a whole lot of flavor. So we'll go through how we're gonna mix these all together and what parts they're going into, but those are the spices you're gonna need if you want to make it from scratch.
Alright, so I'm obviously gonna cook the rice because, you know, Asian. Make rice with an Asian. Normally you would cook this rice on a stovetop, but we have our handy dandy rice cooker. So we're gonna use that instead. I promise you it's going to turn out just as well, if not better. The first thing you'll need is some sort of cup. Now this doesn't have to be like a 250 ml cup, it just needs to be some container. I use this one, it's passed down to me, it's very near and dear to my heart. So the trick is, and here's the secret with cooking rice guys, you use equal amounts of rice and water. I put 5 of these cups in here, so I will put 5 cups of water into the same container. That is the trick of cooking rice. But before we're going to do that, we're going to up the flavor profile a little bit. Like Tia said, we like to put these bouillon cubes into the rice. It'll give that really nice flavor. I'm just using a teaspoon, a couple of heaping teaspoons in there. And we'll stir it up. And then we'll add it to the rice. It doesn't need to be well stirred or anything. The rice cooker will take care of itself. And all we do is we pour it into our pot, give it a nice shake, and a last stir with a spoon, and it will end up looking like this murky water, but that's okay. Just like that. Yes, you see there's some bouillon cubes still in there, that's okay. it will sort itself out, and all I do is now pop it in to my rice cooker and go. Once that pops, you need to wait for about another 15 minutes for it to actually steam. That's the magic part. So don't touch it. If you release the steam, you'll have to start over. 15 minutes after this pops. So let's get on with the rest of the recipe while we wait for that.
Let's start by putting together our spice packets. So we're gonna be making two different ones. The first one is called Sazone. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. And it's gonna be equal parts turmeric, cumin, paprika, garlic powder, coriander seed, and then we're not gonna do an equal part of salt, but we are gonna add salt to that as well. So the sizing that we're doing of these is a half a tablespoon for each, and then 1.5 teaspoons of salt. So we'll go ahead and start building that. So that's our Sazone seasoning. We're just gonna place that aside until we're ready to use it. And now we're gonna make our second seasoning packet, which is going to be adobo seasoning. So I've got another bowl handy here, and in this one we'll be using 1 tablespoon paprika, and then equal parts, which is gonna be 2 teaspoons of garlic powder, black pepper, oregano, cumin, and then we're gonna do 1 teaspoon of the chili powder. So let's get on that one. And there you have it. That's our adobo seasoning that we will also be setting aside until we're ready to use.
In normal circumstances, we'll definitely be using dried beans, but we can only find these canned ones. You usually want to do the dried beans because they're a little bit more flavorful. For the dried beans, you want to soak them for about 6 to 8 hours, and for your pound of beans. Now we're gonna take a look at these ones here that we got. They look like they're almost ready to go, to be honest. We're gonna see how this turns out because we've actually never used canned beans before. They look a little bit mushy already, which suggests to me that they're almost ready to go, and we just need to kind of run them through some water to wash some of this starch off a little bit, and start seasoning it with our sofrito. Time to make the sofrito. The key to this is the garlic, the onion, and all these vegetables. Bell pepper and cilantro. We're going to chop them all up and then cook them in some tomato sauce. And once all that comes together, we'll put half of it away for the rice and half of it will go into the beans. So let's get chopping.
Are you crying?
No, I'm okay. The trick to not crying is to lay these onions face down. It's time for the garlic. All we're gonna do is use the side of our knife and crush it. This way the peel comes back all off in one go. Take the ends off and you're ready for chopping.
Thank you, Andy, for doing all that chopping. Now it's time to actually cook the sofrito. So we've got our pan heating right here, and we're gonna go ahead and add a little bit of olive oil to it first. Probably good enough there. And now we're going to actually start cooking all of the vegetables that Andy has chopped. So take a look. So you're gonna wanna cook all of the vegetables until the onion goes a translucent color, and that's when it's gonna be ready for you to add the tomato sauce. So pour that whole can of tomato sauce in and let it come to a bubble. Now once it starts bubbling, that's when you're gonna turn the heat down to a simmer and add in all of your chopped cilantro and your Sazone seasoning. Once your ingredients are pretty much mixed together, your sofrito is ready to go. Now you're gonna be putting half of this into your beans and half of it into your rice. So make sure you save enough to split into the two sections.
We've taken half of the sofrito out, and now we add the adobo seasoning, which is going to go into the rice. This is kind of up for you in terms of taste. We like tons of seasonings, so I'm gonna start with the 2 heaping teaspoon, I guess, full. And we're just gonna taste it as we go. I'm gonna let it mellow out in the sauce for a little bit first before I give it a quick taste and add more if I need. All right, it's smelling fantastic. The seasoning is definitely in there, and you can't say no to more seasoning. And again, we're gonna let the flavors marinate. And now to prepare the rice. I'm just blending up the rice a little bit. I just took it out of the rice cooker. Now, we made more rice than we need because, you know, you can't really live without rice in this household. But what we're going to do is we're going to put some rice into a big mixing bowl first, or a serving bowl. And then we're going to add the sofrito in and then kind of adjust that balance until we get the perfect amount of rice versus sauce. So let's say we're pretty hungry, so 3 spoonfuls to start. And now let's add the sauce. Perfectly balanced.
All right, Andy took care of the rice, I'm taking care of the beans. So what we have here is the beans, and they are still in the water they were boiling in. It is very important that you do not drain the water because that's what gives Puerto Rican rice and beans the consistency that they need. Now, because we are trying this for the first time using canned beans, we did take a little bit of water out. We set it aside in case we need to put it back in. But basically, you should still have quite a bit of water in your pot with your beans. So what we want to do from here is add the other half of the sofrito in and mix it all together. All right, as you probably saw, our beans are a little bit more watery than we need them to be, unfortunately, but that's okay, no need to worry. What we're gonna do is actually let this cook down a little more. So we've got it sitting on medium heat. We are gonna keep stirring it so that it doesn't burn and stick to the bottom of the pot, but this will help evaporate some of that extra liquid that we don't need. Well, the beans finally cooked down. They're a little bit of a better consistency. So we basically just have to plate this food and then we can eat it. So we're gonna start with a couple of spoons of rice. It's probably good enough. And we're gonna add some beans to it. We'll add all the beans to it. And there you have it, a nice hearty bowl of Puerto Rican rice and beans.